Welcome back to Everything Chat. We're going to take a deep dive into branding today.
Yeah, going way beyond just logos and slogans.
Right.
We're going to uncover how design and marketing can influence our choices.
Sometimes without us even realizing it.
We'll be looking at a bunch of different techniques.
Okay.
Everything from clever design choices to some strategies that, well,
Push the boundaries.
yeah, let's just say they push ethical boundaries.
So what's our main source for this deep dive?
We're going to be primarily focusing on a design theory video called How Brands Use Design and Marketing to Control Your Mind. It really gets into the psychology behind branding.
It's really interesting how much emotion plays into our decisions. We like to think we're logical, but
Right.
it seems like emotion plays a much bigger role than we think.
Absolutely.
To start off, let's look at this example. The Soviet Union and their lack of branding.
The Soviet Union and their communist ideology, they actually kind of rejected the idea of individual brands. They embraced generic labeling for pretty much all their products.
So what did that look like?
Like bread from different bakeries was all just labeled bread. Rivets from different factories were all mixed together, no differentiation.
And what was the result of that?
Well, it created this system where producers weren't really accountable for the quality of their goods.
So you could end up with a bad product, but no way to trace it back to the source.
Exactly. Imagine buying a loaf of bread and it's stale, but you have no idea which bakery to avoid next time.
Or worse, faulty rivets leading to bigger problems like ships sinking.
Exactly.
There's no accountability.
And I imagine that led to a decline in the overall quality of goods, right?
Absolutely. Across the board.
Because why bother making something great if you're not going to get any credit for it?
Right, exactly.
So branding, as we know it in capitalist societies, really serves a pretty important function.
It creates that link between the producer and their goods.
And it provides information for consumers to make better choices.
It's about information symmetry. You could reward the good companies and avoid the bad ones.
Right.
Okay, but beyond just accountability, branding taps into emotion in a big way too.
Right. Absolutely. Think about toothpaste, for example.
Okay.
Obviously, oral hygiene is important.
Yes, we all know that.
But are we really brushing just for our health?
I mean, I like the minty freshness.
Exactly. The promise of white teeth, a confident smile.
It's aspirational.
These are all emotional triggers that probably play a bigger role in our decision-making than we realize.
So it's not just the function of the product, it's the feelings and aspirations we associate with it.
Absolutely. And this emotional influence extends to a lot of other purchases, too.
Like what?
Think about Tesla. Some buyers might be driven by environmental concerns,
Sure.
but the sleek design, the association with innovation, the status symbol,
It's definitely a status symbol.
those are powerful motivators.
They're playing on emotion more than logic.
Exactly.
And it's not just cars. Luxury goods, designer clothing,
Right,
even the way food is presented.
right. It all plays a role in shaping our perceptions.
Our senses and emotions are constantly being influenced by design and branding.
Absolutely. Like a heavier bottle can make wine taste better.
Really?
Yeah, and a beautifully plated dish can make food more appetizing.
Interesting. So that brings us to visual shorthand, which is where things get a little more complex, maybe ethically.
Visual shorthand is essentially using design to quickly communicate information, often relying on symbols and subtle cues.
Okay.
Think about the stripes on a tube of toothpaste. They suggest multiple benefits. Or the vents on a car.
Those fake vents.
Yeah, they create this illusion of power.
Which is totally fake, of course. They're just for looks.
Right. So it makes you wonder, is that clever design or is it crossing the line into deception?
It seems like there's a fine line there.
Yeah. Visual shorthand can be effective when it's highlighting real benefits.
Right.
But it becomes problematic when it's used to mislead. The vents might seem harmless.
But like fake speakers.
Yeah, speakers with fake drivers that create a false impression of sound quality, that's a problem.
Right. When you intentionally deceive people about a product's functionality or quality, that's not good.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that we rely on these mental shortcuts all the time.
We can't analyze every single detail of every product.
We make snap judgments based on visuals, brand reputation. It's just how our brains work.
So while branding can be a great tool for communication and trust,
Absolutely.
it's also susceptible to manipulation.
Absolutely. And as we go deeper into these techniques, we're going to find even more sophisticated and maybe even more manipulative tactics.
Okay, give me an example.
Well, one fascinating example is the rule of reciprocation. There was the study involving hurricane relief donations.
Okay. Tell me about it.
They sent out donation envelopes. Some were higher quality paper, some were hand-delivered, some offered a tax rebate.
Interesting. Which performed best?
The ones that offered a tax rebate actually generated the fewest
Oh,
donations.
wow.
The hand-delivered ones and the high-quality paper ones saw a big increase in contributions.
That's counterintuitive. You'd think a tax break would be more compelling.
Well, it comes down to the rule of reciprocation. When someone goes the extra mile, like hand-delivering something, we feel obligated to return the favor.
Okay.
A high-quality envelope signals effort, triggering that desire to reciprocate.
So even those little details can influence our behavior.
Exactly. And it goes beyond donation envelopes. Think about free samples at the grocery store.
All right,
It's
yeah.
not just about trying the product.
They're trying to make you feel obligated to buy something.
Exactly. Even if it's not the product you sampled, it's a nudge towards a purchase.
Interesting. And then there's social proof, which takes this influence to a whole other level.
Right. Social proof is basically the idea that we look to others for guidance when making decisions, especially when we're uncertain.
Makes sense, like why we read reviews online.
Exactly. Why bestseller tags are so effective, why celebrity endorsements work.
I remember that example of the Beijing restaurant chain that boosted sales without changing anything about their food.
Oh, yeah, that's a great example. They just added the words most popular to certain dishes.
And people ordered those items more simply because they were perceived as the popular choice.
Exactly. It's the herd mentality.
But this can be manipulated too, right?
Of course. Fake online reviews, staged testimonials, even the people they choose for ads.
It's all designed to create that illusion of popularity.
Like those ads with the diverse range of people all loving a product, it makes it seem like everyone's using it.
And if you're not, you're missing out.
Right.
It's a subtle but powerful message.
It is. And as consumers, we need to be aware of this. Just because an ad shows happy people doesn't mean the product is good.
We have to be more discerning.
We need to look beyond the surface. And we often find ourselves looking to authority figures, right? Especially when
Yeah.
making decisions in areas where we don't have expertise.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's easy to see how that can sway opinions. Like that Vicks Formula 44 commercial with the actor.
The one who played a doctor on TV.
Yeah, exactly. He wasn't a real doctor, but it lent a certain credibility to the product.
It plays on our inclination to trust those we perceive as knowledgeable, even if it's based on a fictional portrayal.
And then there was that More Doctors Smoke Camels campaign.
Oh, yeah, that's a classic example. It really shows how authority can be used to promote harmful products.
It's a good reminder to be critical. We can't just accept things at face value, especially from sources that benefit from our belief.
Absolutely. Real expertise needs to be based on evidence, not just a uniform or a catchy slogan.
Right. So next time we see a celebrity or expert endorsing something, maybe take a moment to consider their motivations.
Is it genuine authority or is it manufactured?
Exactly. So another tactic is the principle of scarcity.
Right. When we see something as rare or limited, it just becomes more desirable.
It's like basic supply and demand.
But it also taps into that fear of missing out.
Like that story of Elvis Presley's De Tommaso Pantera.
The one where he shot the steering wheel.
Yeah, because it wouldn't start. Turned it into a collector's item.
A destructive act that increased the value because it tied to a legend.
And marketers use this all the time, right?
All the time. Limited editions, only a few left messages, flash sales.
All playing on our fear of missing out
Creating that sense of urgency to make us buy now.
without really thinking about it.
Yeah.
So we need to recognize that tactic and separate it from our actual needs.
Ask ourselves, am I being manipulated or is this something I actually value?
Good point. And then there's this idea of unity and tribalism in branding.
Right, going beyond individual psychology. It's about tapping into our need to belong.
Like Nike's Colin Kaepernick campaign, that was a prime example of how a brand can use social issues to create a sense of community.
They knew it would be controversial,
Kaepernick's stance on racial injustice and police brutality, it was a hot topic.
but they also recognized the strong feelings it would evoke.
Yeah, it definitely solidified their position as a brand that stood for something.
It was a calculated risk. Some people boycotted, others were drawn closer, felt a stronger connection.
Their purchase became an expression of their beliefs.
A badge of belonging. And we see similar tactics used in other ways, too. Think about the Selena Gomez makeup line.
Oh yeah, with the ads showing her in everyday settings.
Exactly. Applying makeup in a relatable environment, it creates the sense of connection, shared values.
It makes her seem more real, more accessible.
It's a carefully crafted illusion, but it works. Consumers want to align themselves with that lifestyle.
So we've seen how branding can exploit our desire to fit in, be part of a group. It can be used for good or for bad.
Absolutely. Now, this might seem counterintuitive, but some brands actually thrive by being upfront about their tactics.
Really, being open about the manipulation.
It's like they're letting you in on the joke.
So it's disarming in a way.
It can be. Liquid Death is a great example. They sell bottled water, about as basic as you can get,
Okay.
but they package it in cans that look like heavy metal album covers.
I've seen those. It's pretty funny.
It's brilliant, taking something mundane and making it rebellious.
So over the top that it becomes ironic.
And that humor is key. It creates a shared sense of rebellion, like you're in on the joke. They even have a VP of cult indoctrination.
I think I saw that on their website.
It's all tongue-in-cheek, but it works, and they back it up with real claims about quality.
And they donate to environmental causes.
So there's a layer of authenticity there, too. It's a strange mix.
Walking a fine line.
Yeah.
So what about D-brand? I've heard they take a similar approach.
D-brand is even more brazen. They have a snarky, almost abrasive style.
I've seen their ads. They're pretty funny.
They make fun of consumers, competitors, even themselves. They have a book called Manifesto that they openly admit is propaganda.
That's hilarious. And their extortion portal where you send them money for nothing.
Exactly. It's like they're daring you to buy into their brand. And it works. Their audience appreciates the humor.
It's a very specific type of consumer. The cynical ones who are tired of traditional marketing.
Exactly. They want something different, something that challenges the norms.
So it makes you wonder, is this honesty really the best policy now?
It's a bold strategy. It raises questions about the relationship between brands and consumers, especially in a world where authenticity is so important.
It's interesting to see brands like that acknowledge the manipulation.
It's like a meta-commentary on the whole thing.
Right.
They know people are cynical and savvy to traditional tactics.
It's like they're saying, we see through the BS too.
Yeah, exactly.
But it all comes back to the meaning we attach to these brands.
It's not just the product itself.
Right. It's about the story, the values, the emotions.
Like that dollar bill signed by Bill Gates and Warren Buffett.
Oh, yeah. Just a regular dollar, but those signatures make it valuable.
Exactly. It shows how branding creates meaning.
We're not just buying a cup of coffee. We're buying the experience, the story the coffee shop is selling.
We're drawn to things that align with our aspirations, things that make us feel like we belong.
Branding plays on that, right?
Absolutely. Creating narratives that resonate with us.
And that's where it becomes powerful.
It can be inspiring,
But it can also be really manipulative.
leading us to make choices based on desires we didn't even know we had.
So how do we navigate that?
We need to be aware, develop a critical eye.
Ask ourselves, am I buying into a story or being manipulated?
Exactly, become more conscious consumers.
The T-shirt is a funny example of this.
Oh yeah, just a shirt with shirt printed on it.
Exposing the absurdity of it all.
But still, it's a brand being sold.
The irony.
Right. But it's kind of the most honest form of branding because it acknowledges the whole game.
It's like they're saying, we know it's all a bit ridiculous.
And in the end, we have the power to choose how we engage.
We can buy into the hype, or we can see through it.
Make choices that reflect our actual values.
Be conscious. Recognize the tactics. Make good decisions.
Remember the shirt, T-shirt. Don't take it all too seriously.
See through the manipulation.
Make choices that reflect you.
That's a good takeaway. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into branding.
It's a fascinating world.
Until next time, stay curious and question everything.